Brr Patapim has a very important job. He has to look after all these Brainrot babies. Right away, Tung Tung and Ballerina Cappuccino took all the blocks for themselves. Din didn't like that and threw a tantrum. Brr Brr couldn't stop him because he was busy with Cappuccino Assassino, who was jumping around on the jungle gym. But that ended quickly. It was always hard keeping Bombardiro grounded. Sure, things were tricky now, but they always got harder during lunch. Mateo would always trade his food, and if someone didn't want to, he'd get someone to steal for him. But because of Udin's tantrum, one of the deals fell through. And since Brr Brr was busy, Mateo took matters into his own hands. But before anything bad could happen, lunch was over, and it was time to play outside, which only led to more chaos, especially with Udin still angry. Brr Brr was focused on fixing Pot's iPad, so some of the kids got together and came up with a plan to escape the daycare. And by the time Brr Brr noticed, they had already run all the way to the city. Cappuccino Assassino finally had a bigger jungle gym to play on. And Bombardiro Crocodillo had no limits. Brr Brr had to hurry because the parents were about to arrive. But luckily for him, the chaos in the city was stalling them. And right before things got bad, Brr Brr was there to save the day. But since Brr Brr wasn't at the daycare, Mateo could exact his revenge on Udin. He stopped Tung Tung's baseball game and took his bat. But before he could use it, the parents were back, and so were their kids. They picked up their kids, and Brr Brr finally got to relax and prepare to do it all again tomorrow. Ballerina Cappuccino may seem like she has it all. Her origin story is actually quite tragic. Her mother was the best ballerina in the world. But Cappuccino never liked dancing. She spent her time in martial arts. Until one day, her mother got in a terrible accident. Her parents forced her to quit martial arts and do ballet instead. But Cappuccino hated dancing and was awful at it. So before her first big recital, she ran away. Her parents looked everywhere. Young Cappuccino was gone. Without anything to survive with, Cappuccino had to make money somehow. And since she couldn't sing, she had no choice but to dance. She still wasn't great. People felt bad for her. And dancing every day made her very good at it. So she managed to collect a lot of money until it was all taken away. She chased down the thief only to find him laughing. Ballerina Cappuccino didn't find the joke too amusing, and neither did the thief's friend. Ballerina started spending lots of time with this friend, which made Udin jealous. He tried everything he could to win her over. But she chose Tung Tung every time. This ended in a fight, where Ballerina had to put her martial arts to use. Udin stop talking to them, and the couple grew up together. Ballerina even got a job and was happy. She finally had a normal life. Until a strange customer came in. He told her he was a talent manager who knew Ballerina's mother and believed Ballerina was just as talented. She agreed to work for him. But after the first big show, he ran away with all of her earnings, leaving her alone once again. Only she wasn't alone, because she had Tung Tung. He believed in her. And that's all she needed to become who we all know today. But her success made enemies, and those enemies had a plan. But their plan was in trouble because the origin story of Cappuccino Assassino isn't for the faint of heart. He was born into the wealthy espresso family and lived with loving parents. Until one night, when the happy family was walking back from a movie. They took a shortcut down an alleyway and were met by a local thug, Din. He killed Assassino's parents in front of his very eyes. Cappuccino Assassino ran for his life. When he couldn't run anymore, he found himself standing outside a temple for ninjas. The ninja's master, Sensei Macchiato, took Cappuccino Assassino in. He then began training him as one of his own. After many years, Sensei Macchiato died, and Cappuccino Assassino was devastated. A ninja who hated Assassino challenged him to a duel for the role of Sensei. Cappuccino Assassino won the duel, but decided he didn't want to be Sensei. He wanted to go back to the city he ran from so long ago. He wanted to put his training to work. He swore to himself he would keep the city safe so that what happened to his parents would never happen again. And more importantly, he swore that if he ever saw the evil Din again, he would get his revenge. Din was mean, but he wasn't always evil.
3 months earlier.
Once he was a regular guy who wanted to get buff, but became obsessed with making himself stronger. Until one day, when he reached his limit. Desperate to become stronger, he sought out a sorcerer to help him. That sorcerer's name was Trippy Troppy. Din's wish of unlimited strength was granted. Little did he know, the magic had unintended side effects. Overcome by rage, he began terrorizing the city. Assassino Cappuccino tried to stop the monster, but he was no match for the evil orange. Trippy Troppy saw what his magic had done. He knew he had to do something, and he had to do it fast. He tried blasting magic to weaken Din, but the monster was just getting angrier. Din turned on Trippy Troppy. With his dying breath, he used his magic one last time and gave his power to Tung Tung Sahur. Now Tung Tung had the power too, and Din finally had a worthy opponent. The fight between these titans lasted for hours. Din was already weak from using his power, allowing Tung Tung to get the upper hand and beat him to a pulp. Din promised to never push his limits again. Tung Tung Sahur looked like a monster when he smashed Ballerina Cappuccino's birthday cake. All of the guests ran in fear, except for Cappuccino Assassino, who leapt into action to protect Ballerina. Sword to Tung Tung, He demanded why he would do such an evil thing. Tung Tung Sahur pleaded he could explain all of this. Tung Tung witnessed something horrible when he went to get Ballerina's present. A mysterious person was poisoning Ballerina Cappuccino's birthday cake. Tung Tung shouted at the guests to stop, but the cowardly villain fled the scene and escaped into his getaway car. Tung Tung tried to give chase, but then he realized they were about to serve Ballerina her cake. He rushed back to stop her before it was too late. He knew destroying the cake would make him look like a villain, but the real villain escaped the party. Cappuccino Assassino believed what Tung Tung was telling him. That left them all to wonder, who wanted Ballerina Cappuccino dead? By now, you probably already know what happened. When the moon woke up! It seemed like every planet had woken up by now. All except one. I was tasked with a very important mission. Taking a crew to Pluto, so we can make sure it isn't a monster like the other planets. Everything seemed okay at first, but then something terrible happened. I tried calling for help, but just as soon as I got a message through, the communications got jammed. But that's not the worst of it. Something made my crewmate go crazy. I didn't want to hurt him, but he sure wanted to hurt me. He was a lot stronger, and it wasn't looking good for me. But thinking that my crew had all died, the government decided to attack. They sent out a missile to Pluto, and the missile saved me. But it made Pluto angry, and it started moving towards Earth. And with the government having no other options, I had to think of something fast. I used parts from the broken ship and made an explosive. I was going to destroy Pluto from the inside. There were creepy beings frozen in ice, and a strange glowing liquid. I could have explored down there forever. But it wouldn't be long before Pluto crashed into Earth. And with the meeting of an old friend, I had to act fast. The explosive was primed, and I ran as far as I could. I survived the explosion, but now I was floating alone in space. Or at least, I thought I was. There was nothing I could do. Pluto's moon, Karen, would swallow me whole. I knew I wouldn't survive inside much longer. But then I heard the crunching noise. Karen had bit into a large spaceship. This could be my ticket out of here. board, I was met with even more trouble. The captain was dead, and his crew had already turned. I fought through them and locked myself in communications. I had contact with mission control. They were surprised to hear I was alive. They were unable to help. They told me there was a problem. And they were also locked in. Once again, it was all up to me. Luckily, this ship had lots of vents. I snuck into one just in time. I went back to the cockpit and initiated the ship's self-destruct timer. And ran to an escape pod and launched myself out of there. As I sped towards Earth, I watched the ship and Karen explode. Things weren't looking good in the control room. It seemed like it was about to get worse. Boy, were they ever happy to see me! They told me my mission was a success. But a piece of broken Pluto managed to hit Earth. And what it did to Brainrot creatures was catastrophic. Trippy Troppy was among the first affected. His pond was drained, and his gills filled with debris. Next was Pot Hotspot, whose already frail body disintegrated. A group came together to try to fix things. Some of the bravest volunteered to investigate the crash site. That was a mistake. Cappuccino Assassino's weapon started melting. Pretty soon he would be a puddle. Uniden tried to carry him to safety, but even he began rotting away. Mateo saw this as a business opportunity and sold protective gear. Only it didn't work, and the extinction continued. While Mateo got richer. Tung Tung Sahur saw what Mateo was doing and became furious. Ballerina Cappuccino begged him to stay out of it. She had already packed their bags and believed they could escape extinction. But Tung Tung wasn't leaving yet. Not until Mateo was dealt with. However, Tung Tung was surprised to see the meteor had already dealt with him. And he was next. So he ran home as fast as he could, hoping he could beat the decay. None of that mattered in the end. He was too late. Everyone was extinct except for him. And it wouldn't be long until he joined them. Unless he ran to Trippy Troppy's home. He knew there had to be a spell book somewhere. There it was. vessel. Tung Tung used the very last of his breath to reverse the effects of extinction